mental health. And Tony Sigrist is the founder of Talking Freely, great name, a community project in the city of Ely which promotes good mental health. And he joins me now. Good morning to you, Tony.
Good morning, Amir. How are you this morning?
I'm very well, thank you, my friend. I hope you're well as well. Can you tell us a bit about yourself and your story and why you started up Talking Freely?
Certainly, yeah. So I'm based out in Ely, which is where the Freely comes from, with a nod to our city at the end of the name there.
Yeah.
My story started with my previous career as a police officer. And I noticed myself starting to struggle with my mental health, really probably throughout my career, if I'm honest, but it started to become particularly difficult around the the early part of 2000s. And I ended up having a period of time off work. And at that time, people weren't really talking about mental health. It wasn't in the news. It wasn't in the public language at all. You know, we didn't have any sort of cultural frame of reference for it. And when I had to go back to work, I felt really quite nervous.
Yeah.
About having to face the judgment of my peers as much as anything else, and I made a decision to talk openly and honestly about what had happened to me. If I'm honest, probably because I was backed into a corner a little bit with it.
Right.
But what happened really surprised me, because people started to respond to the conversation and people started to share experience, and I realised that there was this great tsunami of conversation that wasn't being had, that people weren't talking about at the time, but that when they were given an opportunity to, or a catalyst, people wanted to talk about. So I started an organisation with the Met Police, who I was working for at the time, and then when I left, I carried on that work in my community and founded Talking Freely, which, you know, is really, it's a name, but it's what we do as well. We make conversations happen. So, you know, the world is telling us, let's talk about mental health. We agree with that, but we understand it's not always that easy to talk about mental health, and we create the environments and the education to make those conversations happen.
And comparing the time when you were so courageous in speaking out, comparing it to nowadays, how easy do you think it is now for people to speak out about their mental health?
Well, that's a really interesting question, Amir, because we're much more on the page with it now, aren't we? You know,
Yeah.
we hear it in the news, and I have to say, you know, that our local area can be very proud in the fact that that conversation really started to change because Prince Harry and Prince William spoke out so bravely and eloquently about their own experiences. So in my experience now, there's more of an appetite to talk about mental health and well-being, but I think we're still coming to that conversation. I think there are still barriers. You know, it's about finding the right person, finding the right environment, and finding the right language. So although I think things are improving, and I think there's more of an appetite and a better tolerance, I still think there's a little way to go with things, you know?
Yeah, I think you're right, but we're certainly on the road to progress. There's no question. And just finally, Tony, where's your happy place? Where do you like to go to connect with nature and the outdoors? Do you have somewhere special?
Yeah, well, I'm one of those people who's, I think, was a little bit guilty prior to lockdown of coupling their well-being to sort of grand landscapes and what have you. So nature's always been quite important for my well-being, but I'd have typically sort of sought out those mountain landscapes and go camping for the weekend. And then when lockdown took all of that away, I realised how many great gifts there are on our doorstep. So in Ely, you're never far away from somewhere really tranquil and nice. And my go-to place is the river. I like to walk by it, and even better if I can get on it. Ely have just started a kayaking club now, so you can get out on the water, and within 5 minutes you can be literally lost in the middle of nowhere. So
sounds wonderful, idyllic and calming and serene, which is what we need, isn't it?
Absolutely, we all need a bit of that in our life. Yeah, absolutely.
Tony, thank you so much for joining us and sharing your story with us as well this morning.
Thanks, Amir. It was great to chat to you.
Likewise, that's a lovely Tony Sigris, the founder of Talking Freely, a community project in the city which promotes good mental health. We have got that.